This is the Marketing Minute with Eric Rhoads, author of the #1 Amazon bestseller, Make More Money Selling Your Art, Proven Techniques to Turn Your Passion into Profit.
So my goal is to help you. I've been marketing my entire life, which is a long, long time. And I learned a lot about marketing, and I did not learn about art marketing. And so the principles that I teach really are not art marketing principles. They're just standard marketing principles, right? I mean, I have picked it up over the years, helping a lot of artists, helping some of them become just super successful, hopefully. Anyway, if you want to make a great living, Art Marketing Minute is a good place to help you do that. You can email your questions, eric@artmarketing.com. Or if you want to send in a video, we have a video. First timer. All right. We have a video. Let's run with it.
Hello, Eric and Amandine. I'm Maris Gauthier from Canada. I started painting in February 2017 to overcome my phobia of painting. But 4 months after I started painting, I was commissioned for an art piece just by showing random little projects I was working on. After selling that first piece, the idea that I could eventually maybe make a business with my art. And so I decided to do this. I sold two small 8x8 paintings for uh, 1,370. I have a website where I sell prints and merchandise too, but it's not really, it didn't really get started. The problem is I'm getting self-conscious. It seems that I was more naive and doing things more spontaneously, but as I go, I realize that I'm selling at higher prices than most would do, and hearing art professionals saying that you can't sell for higher than that when you start. And so I'm wondering, is it can it be detrimental for me to sell at those prices?
Don't let them get you down. One of the first and important principles that I learned in business is that everybody always tells you all the things you can't do. You can't do this because it's not done that way. You can't do that because nobody does that. Just ignore it. Just follow your heart and do what you believe in. There's not a right or wrong. There's not a manual. I've tried to write one, but there's really not a manual. Most most importantly is you put yourself out there. You started out at a higher price. You're getting a decent price for first time paintings out there. You mentioned, I think you said 900 or more, and you've sold some. So what's wrong with that? There is nothing wrong with that. Now I can understand why some people might say, well, you got to start out slow and just start, edge up. Why? Why edge up? Why should you have to do that? Now, a gallery might want to say, look, we have to edge you up and build a collector base and then increase your prices over time. That's where that thinking probably comes from. You're not selling through a gallery, you're selling direct. And if you don't want to sell in a gallery, I'm going to talk about that later, but that's just fine. So you said that the in your original comment, I don't think you said it in the video, but I read your question too, and that is, you said that $900 is a lot of money. Well, it is a lot of money to some people, but it's not a lot of money to other people, right? So we tend to get hung up on perceptions of money. A lot of artists do this. The big problem that I have constantly, I'm constantly coaching artists to say, look, your prices are too low. I had a world famous artist staying in the world famous artist cabin recently. And I said, how much are these paintings? And she told me, and I said, wrong. They should be selling for 4, 5, 6 times this amount of money and they'll sell. Well, I don't know. I don't think so. And I said, no, no, no. You have to have that confidence. They're fabulous. You don't realize the importance of your ability and your career. So we get hung up on these perceptions of money, if especially if we never had money, right? So the one thing that we, as many of us as artists, never grew up with anything, and so so to us, spending $900 on a painting may not be possible or may not something we want to do. And but yet there are people who will drop 900 bucks like you and I would drop a 10. And so you have to understand that. Now the key to this is environment. Environment plays a huge role in selling. If you're selling at a flea market, you're going to have to $10 is a lot at the flea market, right? You're not going to sell a Rolls Royce at the flea market. Rolls Royce is going to be where? They're going to be at the Palm Beach Art Show or the LA Art Show, or they're going to be where the money hangs out at the country club or whatever. They're looking for environment. Environment makes a difference. Well, why aren't you looking for environment? Sounds like you already found it. You found people willing to spend money. So there's lots of different levels in money, right? So, my cardiologist is probably a really wealthy guy, but he's not wealthy compared to Elon Musk, right? I can't imagine. But he's still a wealthy guy. I mean, there's different levels of wealth. I have a buddy that I grew up with who has become, I'd say, probably a billionaire, pretty close to a billionaire. He'll drop 40, $50,000 uh, over dinner with uh, movie stars and people like that, and buying $10,000 bottles of champagne. I mean, it's just money to him, and so it doesn't affect him. I'm not doing that. But that's why hitting money targets is so important if you're selling works that you want to price well. I've had dealers tell me that my magazine, Fine Art Connoisseur, has sold $1 million paintings. And because we have like 400 billionaires who read it. And I sold, I had a real estate company sell a $20 million house from 2 ads in that magazine, and the person who bought responded to the one of those 2 ads, and ended up it was $20 million house, and that was 10 years ago. It's probably equivalent of a $100 million house today. And it was, by the way, a billionaire. So you just never know. You got to be in the environment. So where you advertise matters, where you hang out matters, where they always talk about the people you hang with influence how you are. If you want to sell to rich people, you need to learn about them. You need to hang out with them, figure out, go do a lessons at the country club or something. So, um, you know, rich people don't need bargains. Everybody wants bargains, but they don't need bargains. Some people need bargains. So, your question, is it detrimental in the long term? No, probably not. I think right now you've only sold 2, 3, 4 paintings at these prices, but you've got a consistent track record. So now what you got to do is figure out how to sell more paintings if that's important to you. And it might not be, but to increase volume, you might lower price. But there's something people don't understand. There's a great book. I wish I could remember the name of it. It's on pricing. And it says that if you reduce your price by 10%, let's say you have something that's $100, you reduce it to $90, you have to sell 18% more volume to make up the amount of money. So be careful with that, because otherwise you'll price yourself out. I think higher prices are generally good. You need to build a brand. A brand helps you get a higher price. Now, brands have different meaning. McDonald's is a brand, that's a low price brand. Louis Vuitton is a high price brand. So you need to figure out, what brand do I want to be? Where do I build my brand? How do I build it? Where do I stand out? Where do I want people to see my ads, my stories, things like that? Because you want to be where the rich people are if you're selling to rich people. If you want to sell to school teachers, and who are not going to spend $900. Sorry, I don't mean to belittle school teachers. Is not my point. But the idea is, then advertise someplace that they're reading. But the idea is that you want to You want to stand in the money where the river is flowing, as I always say. Look, you need to feel that you deserve it. And you did that. You set a price because you feel you deserve it. Bravo for you. You tried it. It worked. Congratulations. Now raise your prices more. Keep going up and see where you get price resistance. If you go from 900 to 10,000, you might get price resistance. I was once in a gallery. I said, I want to be the most expensive person in the gallery. And they said, but nobody knows who you are. I said, I know that. But somebody's going to walk in there and they're going to see two paintings and they're going to see one that's $10,000 and one that's $2,000 and they like them both. But the one that's $10,000 must be better. I couldn't get the gallery owner to agree to it. So I don't know what would have happened. Anyway, good job. Congratulations. I'm proud of you. Keep it up. All right. Next question. Amandine.
The next question is from Laura from Berlin, Maryland. How does one get into a gallery when you're not an already established artist? I'm told not to approach a gallery, but how else can one do it?
Well, again, just because I say something doesn't make it true. And I have some strong feelings about this. And I have strong feelings because I was sitting in a gallery one day. Gallery owner said, do you mind while we talk, I go through the mail, and he's going through mail. It was actually kind of rude, actually, now that I think about it. But he's going through mail. I said, what are you looking at? He'd look at peeking something and throw it away, peeking something, throw it away. And he had a big stack. I said, what are you going through? He says, oh, we get 50, 100 submissions a week. And I feel obligated to open them in case there's something in there that I should see. But he says, I don't even look at the artwork. I can't do it. He says, I get hundreds of emails soliciting the gallery. I have people, he says, the other day, I was in front of a customer. The customer is ready to buy. In walks this guy. He interrupts us and he says, hey, I'm kind of interested in being in your gallery. I'd like to talk to you about that. And meanwhile, the customer walks off. He loses the sale, right? He says, I don't want somebody walking into my gallery to talk to me about this stuff. The reality is that galleries, they're a business, right? They're busy. And what questions do galleries ask themselves? Here are a couple of them. Is this artist good? Is this artist consistent? Do they have a body of work? Can they do one good painting or can they do hundreds of good paintings? Because I have to sell a lot of work. I can't make a living from one artist and one painting typically. Will it sell? What price will it sell for? Is it a price that fits my price point in the gallery? Is it too low? Is it too high? And how much is my wall space worth? Shelf space and wall space is worth something. If I have a small gallery and I got to meet let's say $100,000 a month, I can put 10 paintings up. I know I have to be able to get $10,000 a month out of each of those paintings that are hanging there. That's wall space, right? So can I make it with this artist? Can they do it? Do people know your brand? Do they know who you are? Is this artist selling well elsewhere? What's the evidence of that? Can I make a lot of money on her? Can I make a lot of money on her over the next 5, 10, 20 years? And I had a gallery owner say, I told him about an artist. He says, yeah, I'm aware of that artist, but quite frankly, he's good. He's very good, but I don't think I can get 20 years of business out of him. So I would rather invest in somebody that's going to be around for 20 years. Sad, but true. So, everybody thinks differently. So now, if you do want to go through and be in a gallery, and by the way, there's no rule that says you have to be. I like the idea of having a gallery. I have 3 of them. And I like it because they're talking to me. They're talking about me. They're selling me when I'm sleeping, right? And I don't have to do all that work. Now, I don't sell anything direct. I don't have time. I barely have time to paint for the galleries. I have scarcity. I have that because I don't have much in the galleries. And they probably don't push me very much because they know I'm not going to give them enough stuff. But if you want to be, then keep in mind a couple of things. First off, you are handing your future over to a gallery, which I think is stupid. Now, I'm not an anti-gallery. I love galleries. But what I mean is don't rely 100% on any gallery. First off, you want to spread your risk. You want to have 2 or 3, ideally, minimum. Some people don't. But if you're going to have exclusivity with a single gallery, then you want to be in someplace like Forum in New York or Acadia Gallery in New York, because they are going to make you a lot of money if they get behind you. And so you want to make sure that you still have control. You want to make sure you control the circumstances, the deal, the stakes. You got to motivate them. You got to help them. You got to cooperate with them. You got to brand yourself still, control your branding. You got to have other outlets to sell if they let you. Some artists will have like a certain category or a certain amount of money. So you've got to control everything, because the minute you lose control, if they all of a sudden they stop working for you, you've got a bigger problem, right? So you don't want to have that. So I would say if you want to be in a gallery, I like the idea of getting invited in. And the way to get invited in, I go into excruciating detail in my book, but the essence of it is find somebody who knows them, ask them to evaluate your work, ask them if you feel that you would be a good fit for their gallery. And if they do, ask them if they would be willing to mention you to somebody. Don't push it. And you have to, you're calling a favor. So you got to be kind of careful about that. But that's overall one of the best ways. Now, here's the other trick that nobody realizes, which is probably the biggest way that galleries find artists. Well, it used to be just ads. Now it's Instagram, Facebook. That's why I always say don't post unfinished paintings and don't post your bad paintings. We all do bad paintings. Don't post your bad paintings. Why? Because people are flipping through and they see a bad painting and they see your name. What do? They say, oh, Eric's does bad paintings. So put your best work out there. And then, of course, I had a dealer I interviewed one time, and he said, I watch who's advertising in your magazines. And I said, why? He said, because I want people who are committed to their career. They're so committed that they're willing to spend money to brand themselves, to try and sell on their own. And also, they're going to eventually keep spending money, and they're going to mention my gallery in their ads, and I'll mention them in my ads. And so it's a win-win. And he says, I've got this one guy, I've had my eye on him for 5 years. He says, I'm about to go with him. His work was a little inconsistent, but it's getting better and better. And now I'm about to go with him. So be patient. There are people watching you don't know are watching. So I've also seen galleries, and this is the thing I alluded to earlier, and that is that I've seen galleries who have decided not to work with established artists. What? Why would that be? Well, there are people out there who established themselves, 10, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. They became big deals. They were known. They were household words, were household names in the art industry. And they're no longer keeping up. They're no longer promoting themselves, no longer doing shows, no longer doing ads, because they thought they could rest on their laurels. But the reality is that unless you stay at the forefront, you're no longer going to sell. I heard from an artist who called me one day. He says, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, he says, I was making so much money. I was selling I couldn't believe it. And I said, well, what are you doing now? Are you doing ads? No. Why should I do ads? Everybody knows who I am. I said, are you doing shows? No, it's too much work. Everybody knows who I am. Went through the whole thing. And I said, they've forgotten you. There's a thing called attrition, right? So every year, a gallery loses 10% of their audience. Every year, an artist loses 10% of their buyers, right? Attrition. People die, people move, people retire, people don't buy paintings anymore, people get sick, people change their taste. There's a lot of things that happen. And so that's 10% a year. In 2008, when a bad economy happened, it was like 60% in 1 year, right? So you have to constantly be bringing new people in, and galleries have to do that. And that's why people keep advertising, because you're always bringing people in. If you lay low for 10 years, you're going to feel it. You're going to feel it after a year, quite frankly. You feel it after 6 months. I I have a very well-known artist who advertised with us, and the discussion was, well, I think I've been advertising a long enough time. I'm just going to stop. And I said, okay, that's fine. Here's what's going to happen. Oh, no, that'll never happen. Everybody knows who I am. I said, okay. 6 months later, phone rings. You were right. Phone stopped ringing. Galleries stopped calling. Sales stopped happening. I said, right. Out of sight, out of mind. Anyway, those are some thoughts on galleries. Bottom line is you got to build your brand. You got to control your brand. You got to get invited. That's best. Don't just barge in. If you do decide you're going to go that route, at least email, call, try to get an appointment, and explain to them the answers to those questions, why you're a good investment, why they're going to sell. Give them evidence. Let them watch you. And also make sure you're producing the best possible work you can. You know, some of you are not gallery ready, and some of you think you are. You know, it's just something you've got to get advice from other people to find out. Anyway, that is today's Art Marketing Minute.
This has been the Marketing Minute with Eric Rhoads. You can learn more at artmarketing.com.